The big two questions I get from new people starting the hobby are, how many factions are there, and can I buy different factions and use them together? To which the answers are 37, and some of them yes. 3 notes before we jump in. Factions are based on which ones are tracked for best in faction. Rules are always changing, and as of now, what you should be doing is picking 2 or 3 factions that you like the look of and the idea of. Alright, so let's get into it. The Warhammer 40,000 Faction Breakdown. Let's jump right in with the popular faction of Space Marines, also known as Adeptus Astartes. They are a great starter army because they're well-rounded, the opponent probably knows your rules, and they're such a big faction that they probably warrant a video completely on their own. Sisters of Battle, also known as Adeptus Sororitas. Their weapons and armor are similar to Space Marines. Custodes, or Adeptus Custodes, Custodes, there's different pronunciations, but they're bigger and stronger than regular Space Marines. Admech, or the Adeptus Mechanicus. These are people who are mostly robots. They run forge worlds that make equipment for the Imperium. Imperial Guard, also known as Astra Militarum. Big tanks, lots of armed soldiers, the closest thing to regular human military. Imperial Knights, giant walking robots with guns. They have very few models, they're very tough and durable. Imperial Agents. Okay, this faction probably has a couple of units like assassins that can join other Imperium armies. But this is the first of a few factions on here that aren't really fully fleshed out simply because they're too obscure or difficult to pull an army together with just them. This marks the end of armies that we can say are on the side of regular humans. Except they're not called humans in this franchise. They are referred to as the Imperium. This is where we start talking about being able to play certain factions together with each other. Any of the factions I've listed so far can be used together in the same army. When you build an army taken from your choice of 2 or 3 of these factions, you then are playing under the faction of Imperium. This is what we call a super faction. So if you wanted to start 2 factions from the Imperium, you could play them together under the Imperium super faction. Now moving on, I'm also going to be adding one more layer to our circle. Keep in mind this layer is just a narrative group. This will help us sort the factions based on where they fit in the story. And from the Imperium point of view, any alien life form is classified as a Xenos. Since this is a narrative group, it doesn't mean that any faction in this group can work together. They just have the same classification. First up are the Space Elves named Eldari or Eldar. Eldari is their current superfaction name. In this superfaction, there are 2 options right now. Azuryani, or Eldar Craft Worlds, and Drakari, or Dark Eldar. There used to be more options like Harlequins, Yennari, Corsairs, but they all got merged into the main Eldar book. And Corsairs aren't even a faction option anymore because they're now just a couple units in the Codex. We'll just leave it at this. There are ways to mix and match all of the Eldar types in the same army. Up next are the Tyranids and Genestealer cults under the super faction of the Hive Mind. Tyranids are the ever-encroaching bug monsters that devour planets. Genestealer cults represent colonies or stations of Imperial Guard that have been infected by a Tyranid scouting force to prepare the planet for invasion. They are unique in being able to use some of the Imperial Guard units as well as the Tyranid units, in kind of a human-bug mishmash. They also have motorbikes. The next 3 factions are all on their own. They're not played alongside any of the other factions in an army. These are the Necrons, ancient sleeping robots that wake up and are mad. Orcs, you might call Orcs and Squigs kind of a mascot. They're fun and funny, they're creative, and they just want to fight. And the Tau, mech suits, hover tanks, mostly only good at shooting. Now into the Chaos factions. And yes, all of these factions will also fall under the super faction of Chaos. I'm going to start with Chaos Demons. These are creatures from the Warp, which take on one of 4 chaos ideologies. Khorne, which is all about fighting, Nurgle for plague, Slaanesh, excess, and Tzeentch is change. And these 4 ideologies are present throughout the rest of Chaos, including Chaos Space Marines. These are similar to their Imperium counterparts in that they were once regular Marines, but have fallen to, you guessed it, Chaos. Their theme is spiky armor and being sinister. There are 2 other armies that are similar, and I'll put them under Chaos Space Marines. They are Death Guard and Thousand Sons. Death Guard are the Marines who are part of Nurgle, and Thousand Sons are the Marines who are under Tzeentch. Then there is Dark Mechanicus. This is another obscure and underplayed army. Knight Renegades, the evil, spiky version of Imperial Knights, and Renegades and Heretics, like Chaos Imperial Guard, and unfortunately another obscure and underplayed faction. The last ones I haven't put up there are the ones under the Space Marines. These factions are basically Space Marines, but with tweaks to the formula. Most of them used to have their own codex, but now they have supplements to the Space Marine codex. They are Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Death Watch, Grey Knights, and Space Wolves. And if you're looking at the Games Workshop web store and are saying, but Archon Dal, there's plenty more options under the Space Marine section. That's true, and I would say that those have never had their own fully fledged codex before, and they are just different chapters of Space Marines found in the main codex. Many of these have their own supplements too. Okay, so these are the factions you can try to win Best in Faction in. And it's a great way to see how everything fits in together. I am going to take out Dark Mechanicus, Renegades and Heretics, Corsairs, and Imperial Agents. Those just aren't armies that I would recommend to anyone who is starting the hobby. With that, you can see which factions can be bought and used together in an army. What I would suggest is picking 2 or 3 that you like the look or idea of and do some research on them. And then watch the next video in this series. Thanks guys, and have a good one.